Welcome back to I'm Glad You're Here. In our modern Western culture, we often think about Feng Shui as the design of the space and comment, "This space has nice Feng Shui," whenever interiors look pleasing to the eye. I'm honored to have Lois-Kramer Perez on this episode today to break down these fundamental principles of Feng Shui. Lois is certified in hypnosis, specializes in parts therapy, NLP techniques, and is certified by Master Dr. Brian Weiss in past life regression. She's also a published author and a member of the International Feng Shui Guild. This conversation was packed with so much insight that I decided to break it into two different parts. This first part will focus on the fundamental principles of Feng Shui, and the second part will focus on Chinese astrology and grander themes of our collective. I hope you enjoy this episode. Now let's get to it. So I kick off these recordings with just setting an intention. And my intention in this conversation is to really draw on the principles of Feng Shui in a way that we can see it through a lens of personal development. And I think I'm really excited for this conversation because even in telling some of my friends, they're like, "Oh my God, give me the tips and the tools for how to do this." And from our conversation, I know I'm skimming the surface of Feng Shui when I'm like, let me declutter and let me just have a cool home. And so I'm excited for how Feng Shui can be this kind of shining light for us to self-improve.
Beautiful.
First, as we dive in, I'd love to learn about you and how you've kind of cultivated all the modalities that you work with, how you found them, and what you do currently offer.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for having me here, Molly. I just love, as I say, sharing the shui because I talk about how, yes, it's important where you place your sofa and it's important the colors that you use. However, the most important thing is you. And when you understand who you are and where you want to go and what is the best way for you to be, then we take all of these principles and we see how to offer you the best choices because it's all about choice. It's not black and white. And I very unexpectedly ended up in this field from my own journey to heal. I was working in the fashion industry for many years. I was an expert in sweaters and design and technology and traveled the world. I had so much fun. I always had a job that I loved. And I feel very grateful that my life has continued that way. Well, unfortunately, stuff happens. Mm-hmm. And my husband had a heart attack at home and he didn't survive. And that was life-changing, to say the least. Yeah. And fortunately, I had a good job because I was off to Asia, 3 days after the funeral, and it just kind of disconnecting. But disconnecting can only last so long. And there comes a time where you're in so much pain, you want to get out of the pain. And I started creating patterns. Looking back, I can see what was happening, not knowing where I was, but I can see very clearly now what I was doing. I was creating patterns to shield myself, to protect myself from feeling. So if every time I got in the car and I cried where I got to go, that was a way of being in a bubble.
Wow,
by shoving things in a room and shutting the door and denying I had to do anything, with papers and all kinds of stuff that comes along with these things, I was protecting myself from doing anything. But it got to a point where it was just so painful. And fortunately for me, when things show up, I paid attention. And my mom was visiting. We were meant to go to an art show. We get there and it was the wrong day. So she said, let's go to that place that has all the little antique shops. So off we go. And I wander into this little booth that smelled really good. And it was very calming. And the woman was lovely. And it was a Reiki studio. And I said, I've heard about this. Tell me about Reiki. I think I can use some Reiki. So I began my journey, started taking Reiki sessions. And it was just amazing how I could learn to heal in a way that I didn't think I was doing anything. It was just an experience. Mm-hmm. And it was so powerful that I began studying and I became a Reiki master practitioner. But I had no intention of healing anyone. This was just for me. Mm-hmm. And then as I'm studying the Reiki, I hear about Feng Shui. And I said, oh, let me find out about this Feng Shui. So I explored. I found a teacher. I joined a certification course. I mean, I went to the open house. I signed up for the whole year without a blink. Paid, wrote the check. Just, I'm doing it, even though I didn't
Wow.
know would I be away on any of the weekends of class. Well, I didn't miss one weekend. In fact, it
Wow.
was the best way to get out of my jet lag. I'd get home on a Friday, and Saturday I'd go to class all weekend, and it was amazing. And I wasn't expecting to Feng Shui anybody. And through the Feng Shui and the Reiki, we were required to learn energy clearing and dowsing and all of that type of work and meditation and all these things that I never thought I could do. But I just started living differently, and my life started to change. And as my life started to change, I started to notice how different I was. And what Feng Shui brought to me was it taught me how to be myself on purpose. It gave me information to say, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. No wonder I never wear the color green. It's not because I just don't like it. It doesn't feel right for me because of my energy. No wonder I prefer to be in certain times and space. It's because my energy rhythms. So I started to have less judgment about myself than I did in the past because I always thought I was wrong. I was always looking to be like everybody, like what I thought was everyone else. And my favorite story is I thought when you got married, you bought a bedroom set. Now, no one ever told me this. My mother didn't say, when you get married, buy a bedroom set. I just observed any married couple I knew had a bedroom set. My parents, my friends' parents, people I knew. So I get married. I never bought a bedroom set. And I kept searching for that bedroom set. And even after Ray died, I didn't have a bedroom set. And I started studying Feng Shui and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm a bedroom set kind of a girl. So I went out and I bought a bed with a headboard and a footboard that I loved. And a year later, I bought a dresser. A year later, I bought some end tables. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am not a bedroom set kind of person. And the moral of this story is whenever I get stuck in something, whether it's in work or personal or thoughts or decisions, I say, wait a minute, I'm not a bedroom set kind of a girl. Am I attempting to be what I think I'm supposed to be based on people I admire or what is right for me? So it took me all of these years of exploring to still continue to explore who am I? And the best part about the Feng Shui journey, it never stopped once I graduated. I did three additional continued learning sessions. I did private mentoring. I studied other modalities. I studied with other teachers. I studied hypnosis, past life regression, NLP, crystals. There's always something that I'm exploring to make my life better. And then I have even more things that I can use to offer to the clients and the students that I teach.
Yeah, it's amazing what you've packed into your mind. And thank you for that story. It's so wild, but also makes so much sense to hear how naturally intuitive it was. How if you looked at your schedule, you quote unquote didn't have the time, but you did. You found the time for what was right for you. And then the more it just continued to unfold and just present itself, and the more modalities show up, and you're like, okay, I'll consume this. It helps. It's a great tool. And now you've got this insane toolkit, really, really powerful. Let's start with Feng Shui. And from our conversation, the biggest things I was picking up with, there's a few different things at play. There's the Chinese astrological New Year or year. There's the 5 elements. And that's also kind of different than other systems because there's metal and like tree or wood. So a couple of different elements at play. There's one other thing I'm thinking of, but when we were talking about my face or my space, it's kind of this combination of there's personality types. There was like the key system. So there's a lot of things happening with numbers, with animals and elements. I'm curious
Yes,
if you can give a quick little overview of what I'm kind of circumventing.
absolutely. Great points, Molly. Well, to begin with, Feng Shui is really the marriage between the physical things in your space and the energy of who you are. So merging and creating this beautiful symphony of energy to support you where you are, who you are, and what is possible. And it's not about having to be afraid that you've got bad Feng Shui. There are certain things in Feng Shui that are less desirable, but there's a reason for it. You may feel distracted in that situation. You may not feel safe. You may feel annoyed. You may feel ungrounded. So there are reasons why we have different things in our foundation. The first thing is to feel safe. The second thing is to be able to be focused and to create a space where your subconscious is always telling you, yes, I love this. I feel great. Because your subconscious is always having a conversation with wherever you may be. The minute you get ready to walk through your door, whatever that experience is on a regular basis, your subconscious knows, and it will say, okay, get ready. Molly's she's almost home. And when she walks up those stairs, she's like, oh, that step squeaks. And the door sticks. When are they going to fix the door? Who's in charge of this door? And then you open the door and you're like, oh, finally. And then you see, oh my God, they left all that stuff over there. This is exhausting. And you decide you're exhausted. And you don't think it's anything that you've just gone through. You say, oh, it's just been a rough day. And you just say, it's something else that created that. When in fact, it's the little things, those little tiny things that happen, the experiences that happen every day, over and over, that create the feelings and the automatic responses that we have. Now, when you can be in charge of those responses by having a beautiful experience, I'm home, it feels so good to be home. And yes, oh, I got the landlord to fix that door. Oh, yes. And my husband, he understands why all that pile of papers gets me unnerved. And he said, okay, now I understand. And he puts them away. He doesn't have to organize or be like me. He could just get it out of my sight, because that's the most important thing. We want to have a fabulous first. So the first thing in Feng Shui, we talk about form, that when form is in play in a supportive way, then we have the foundation to do something. Because if you are not in good form, if you're not grounded, if you're distracted, if you feel annoyed, if you feel angry or frustrated, how are you going to make any decision to support who you are?
So is form my personal form, or form of where things are located and how they're presenting?
So in Feng Shui, when we look at the aspect of form, it's how things are placed.
Okay.
And the basic rule of form or foundation is we want to be in an armchair foundation. So imagine you're in a big armchair and you've got the arms around you, and you just snuggled into this big chair, and your back is protected, and you're protected on each side. So that's the premise for being in command. So when you're sitting at your desk, if you're in good form, in command position, you have a view of the door, whether it's peripheral or, in front of you to the sides, and you have a mountain or a wall behind you. The same thing when you're sitting in your bed. It's preferable that we have a wall behind us and a view of the door. And depending on the architecture, there are things we can do to give you a feeling of feeling safe while you're sleeping in your bed. Because sometimes the only place to put the bed is on a wall where there's a door to your left or right. Well, we have to manage the best we can do. So diagonally from where the door is, if you have a full-length mirror that you would use to get dressed in the morning, that you could see from the peripheral, it's not in front of you. It's like a rear view mirror. So as you open your eyes and you look to the right, you see what's happening to the door behind you. Now, not even having to see it, your subconscious is now calm, saying, okay, no one's going to sneak up on me. I am always able to see what's coming. And you don't even have to look. It's just that your central nervous system is calm. It's not as if you're sitting with the door behind you, or sitting, with a big, 10-foot drop behind you. Is something happening? Is somebody coming? And you don't even realize you're not focused, that you're distracted. It's those subtle things. So form is always important, that we create a space that we feel safe, that we feel protected, and we have a view of whatever it is we're meant to see. So that's the number one thing, form.
What's immediately coming up for me is thinking about our subconscious. Everything I'm hearing is we're creating an environment because our subconscious works on heuristics, on what's the quickest thing. This is what's known, and I'm repeating patterns. So we're making it as easy as possible for our subconscious to feel safe, supported, strong, in a position of power. So it's like these little adjustments that we can make to really support that. You don't need to go and buy the penthouse apartment, It's about creating that safety in your environment. And even if it's you can't get your bed to face your door properly, having that mirror, now your subconscious sees the door and it's safe
Yes.
because it knows what's coming in, when, if someone opens the door. I think that's really powerful and that works. I understand you a little more now because I know you work with past life regression, hypnotherapy, NLP. So that's all of that subconscious patterning. And our subconscious is formed when we're little and we
Yes.
just go out in the world and we take everything in. So it's kind of this silly little muscle that we have to fool into creating that safety.
And actually, you bring up a good point, Molly, because yes, all of our beliefs and perceptions are formed from the day we are born. I mean, we bring things in that we, bring from the parents. We bring things in from what we observe. As I said, no one told me I had to buy a bedroom set, but
Right.
I had this belief that was so strong that I was not really an adult unless I bought a bedroom set. I wasn't a married adult unless I bought a bedroom set. I had
Which
this
is so
strong belief.
irrational.
Right. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense, but it was just part of me, which proves that you are in charge of you, and you can change any belief or any pattern you've created because you're the one that created it to begin with. But if you're not aware of something that you would like to change, you're not going to change it. If you're not aware, where is the root cause of these feelings? How are you going to address it? You're going, like I thought I was, addressing things that I found had nothing to do with what I was deciding. So I was on that path, but that wasn't right or wrong. It's just where I was. And very often we find that wherever you are is where you're meant to be because it's how you cope. It's how you can best survive. It's how you can best be productive. And then when you get to your next step, it's okay to change that pattern. It's okay to change. So it's not about these big grandiose things. It's one little step. And the easiest thing to begin with is to just create a fabulous first. So whatever your first of your life are, the first experience, opening the door, coming into your home, your first experience when you wake up in your bed, where do your eyes go? What do they see? Do they drift over to the floor to the right and they see, is it a pile of laundry that never got folded? Or is it a stack of papers that never got went? Well, you can manage the first thing you see.
Yeah.
You can manage the toothbrush you use. You want to love your toothbrush. Love the cup. I love my coffee cups. I have the best coffee cups. I love them because, it's the first thing I really pay attention to in the morning, whether I'm aware of it or not, whether it's water or coffee or tea or smoothie. I want to feel good about all these little things. The pencils I use, I have everything has to be fun and sparkly and pretty because that is important to me. I don't notice it all the time, but it's creating that layer. When you're sitting at your desk, what's the first thing you see? If, we're not living in a place where we can be pristine. We don't want to be so pristine and sanitary that it's like empty, but we want to be in a way that supports who we are. So where do your eyes go, when you're taking a break from the computer or you're on the phone and you're kind of looking, off into the distance? What is it that you see? Is it lifting you? I mean, I have pictures of when I was ballroom dancing competitions, when I was in my 40s and I had these beautiful gowns and I had the hair and the makeup. I go, oh my God, best times ever. Best times ever. Looking at things that really lift me. Pieces of art. It could be just a silly little troll doll with crazy rainbow hair. It doesn't have to be anything that anybody says. It's all about you. So by creating these very simple, fabulous firsts, start with the simple things that you can manage easily. And then you go deeper. Okay, now I love my desk. What's on my desk? Oh, these pencils without erasers, get rid of them. Oh, I have a fabulous eraser thing and a pretty pink that I can use that won't rip the paper. Or maybe it's my cell phone case. I love the sparkle, or I love the flowers, or I love the colors. So everything that you're in contact with every day, all day, on a regular basis, create those experiences to support you so you feel good.
You know what I love about that? It feels like such a permission slip to, like, I've been thinking about this recently, just going through clothes and getting rid of them. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, but some of them are kind of new. But if I don't like them and they sit there and they take space and then they block the things that I do like to wear, it brings me down. So it doesn't give me a good impression when I open my closet door. I'm like, oh, all the things I don't like to wear. And then I have
Right.
to flip through them.
And that puts your brain in a confused state because you go to your closet and when you see the things that you don't like to wear, and then you impose this guilt, well, they're kind of new. How can I get rid of them? But if you give yourself permission to say, you know what? If I didn't have these things distracting me, I would know exactly what to wear because everything in my closet is what I love. It would be so
Wow.
easy.
Yeah. Wow. It could be so simple. It could be so
Right.
easy.
Right.
Wow.
But we're complex humans.
Mm-hmm.
We're very complex. So getting the key to create something simple that works for you is
Yeah.
what's the most important thing.
Wow. I want to ask this question, and I also want to go back to what we were saying earlier. So I'm going to put this feeler out there to speak on. But for those of us that don't live alone, whether that's a roommate, a friend, a partner, I'm really curious about how do you personally identify what works for you? How does your partner find what works for them? How do you navigate that together?
That's a great question because we are meant to be in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
as beautiful beings, these spiritual beings having this earthly experience, however we
Mm-hmm.
want to look at it. We're meant to be in a relationship and we're not meant to bulldoze each other. And yet we're not meant to be so passive that we get bulldozed. We're meant to
Yeah.
understand. And what I love about the Feng Shui, and this is where when you were talking about numbers and elements and all these different things. So in Feng Shui, we have 5 elements that connect with the Eastern astrology system. But the beauty of this is whenever we talk about these 5 elements in nature, in the season, the time of day, in our space, the qualities of that in our space, the qualities in the people, where we can find it on our face, it's all the same quality. So to begin to understand first, who are you and who's your partner? And as we can explore what are your primary elemental archetypes based on your birth date, where do these Chinese animals come in? Because the Chinese animals, there are 12 animals, but each animal has 5 potentials. Each animal has an ability to have a water quality, a tree quality, a fire quality, an earth quality, or metal quality. And those qualities will temper the way these particular archetypes express. And understanding how they all fit into the person. What are the primaries? What are the secondaries? Because we've got everything. It's how do we best be ourselves, understanding the quality of these elements. And then sometimes our face and the way we wear our hair or how we like to dress can also give us a clue. So understanding the basic foundation of each other. And for instance, a great combination is someone who's a water person, who has a lot of water quality, and their primary mode of operating is water. So what is water? Water is winter and midnight. So what does that mean? Well, people that have a lot of water, they like to stay up late. They don't like to get up early. And because it's this floating imagination, dream time, they're floaters. They daydream. They feel really deep. Still water runs deep. So think about all the way we describe these qualities without realizing what we're saying. Yes, still water runs deep. A water person will feel things really deeply. And if you push them too hard, they're going to freeze because water out of balance is frozen. It doesn't move.
Wow.
So now here's this water person who loves staying up late. They don't like to get up early, yet every week, they have a job where Monday through Friday, they have to get up early and be wherever. So on the weekend, they look forward to sleeping late. Now, their partner is a tree person, or some refer to this as wood. The reason I refer to this quality of wood as trees is because it's the one element that has a life of its own. What do trees do? You plant a seed and it grows. Right now in springtime, it's this feeling of rebirth. It's like, oh, I'm inspired. I've got the urge to purge. It's spring cleaning.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? It came from somewhere. It's the quality of the energy of spring. Well, a person who operates primarily with this tree element, they naturally, they're the type that they wake up early, and as soon as they open their eyes, they bounce out of bed and off they go. Where the water person opens their eyes and they hit the snooze and okay, 5 more minutes. I just want to lay here. And what was I dreaming about? So now you have this water person on Saturday, very annoyed that her partner pops out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, like he always does, makes the coffee,
Mhm.
takes the dog out for a walk. Well, doesn't he know I want to sleep? So my question to her was, how about just accept that this is who your partner is. They love to get up early and go out. That's how they thrive. Now,
Yeah.
after they've done all that, maybe by 10 o'clock, they're ready for a nap. Invite them to come back to bed and snuggle with you. And now everybody gets what they need. You
I love
you
that.
can respect his nature or her nature, and he or she can respect yours.
Yeah.
And honor what makes each other work, and then how do you come together in the middle? So yes, the water person may not be jumping out of a plane like a tree person might, because they're adventurers and risk takers. However, you might want to take a walk in the park or hike on a trail that isn't too risky because it feels easier for you. So you
Mhm.
can do things together that bring a little bit of each of what you are. And then understanding when people are so different, if you have the ability to have your own space where you can dedicate, all right, this is your area, do whatever you want. It fits for you. This is mine. And then together we respect each other.
Yeah.
So whether it could be, a man cave in the basement or the attic, or maybe it's a separate room, maybe I'm in charge of the living room and dining room and you get the spare room to do whatever, or I create this sanctuary, and however, whatever your space can offer. So understanding each other, then you'll understand why certain colors may be a little bit uneasy for some and other colors just are so nourishing. So when you think about the way you describe how you feel in a place, I feel so comfortable, or I feel so nourished, or I feel so alive in this space, right? You can
Mhm.
understand and understand each other to honor what feels good for each other. And then that part of you that's always sleeping. So as a water person, I can say, yeah, my little tree element is there, but it's not always out. But you know what? There's nothing better than sometimes getting out when I least expect it to a nice sunny day or an early morning with someone I care about and go, oh, look, this is pretty good. I'm not going to do it every day, but I can do it once in a while with someone I care about. Or bringing in plants and trees and opening the windows and letting the light in. Oh, okay, this feels good. Now I'm inspired to get moving.
I love
So
that.
that's an example of using just these two qualities and
Yeah.
how they can relate to each other.
Rather than conformity and thinking in terms of, oh, I live with this person, so he doesn't like the windows open in the morning, or da 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 da. It's knowing yourself, it's letting your partner know themselves, and maybe if one of you are more interested in feng shui, it's offering these tools to really understand yourself, and then it's finding those ways to weave it together. And you mentioned this earlier, but it's more that we're dominant in certain qualities, but we have all of it, and we're all
Yes.
human. So we need elements of all of it.
Yes.
And so maybe if your partner offers more water or more tree, you can anchor into that to receive some of it more and be more open to it. And you also said something really beautiful about just being in partnership and the things that you do, recognizing what you each offer in terms of your elements or your powers. And that might be why certain activities are really joyful and really easy, because you're both offering a lot. Some might be harder, more of that like sacrifice, that push pull. So it's all just this comprehensive tool of kind of collaborating to the best of your abilities based off of your innate qualities and what's most dominant.
Absolutely. And it also gives us opportunities to learn how to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
So now, rather than thinking, he's doing this to me, she's doing this to me, it's, why is that so important? And rather than feeling, well, now I have to do this because he loves it or she loves it, say, oh, well, you know what? I might give it a shot. I'm not going to jump out of a plane, but I know that you like to do this, which is a little more in line with what I'm open to explore. It's a different way to go into something rather than going into something, feel, I have to do this and I don't want to go. As opposed to, let me see, I might want to explore this and see what happens. And then the communication of understanding each other changes, because it's all about communication and not creating the outcome before we even know how it's going to happen. If I decide, well, I know the minute I say I want to do this, he's going to go, nope, I don't want to do it. I'll be angry before I say it. And it'll be a whole energy, battle before any words come out.
What's really resonating for me, and something that you so beautifully embody, is this confidence. And so what I'm hearing is the more we know ourselves, the more confident we are in ourselves, the easier it is to be in any relationship, because you know what works and you can communicate what feels good, what doesn't. For me, for example, I love socializing and I also really need alone time. And my partner can be out and about with a million friends all day, every day. And if I were in that position, I would have a dead battery for many days. So I need to balance it a lot.
Yes.
I need to find that
Yes.
balance. And I have to tell myself, like, if I go out right now, I'm not going to have energy for the things I need to do tomorrow. So I need to tone down. I need my little aura time. I need my space. And just that conversation was such an interesting journey with my partner, because we're very different in that way. And he can just sit with a million people. But I can't, because I'm a chatterbox and I want to talk to everyone and get to know them. And then I'm exhausted and depleted and cranky. So yeah, I mean, even this past weekend, we had all these plans, and I'm like, you know what? I need to pull out of this last one. I need to go spend time alone, and I want to go, but I can't. And it just made sense. I'm like, okay, yes, no pushing, no guilt, all of that. Take care of yourself. He kept me posted on what the plans were in case I wanted to join in. I'm like, actually, I'm really happy I listened to myself, because I really needed to be alone.
And that's a beautiful thing, because there's no feelings getting hurt of, oh, she doesn't want to be with me. It's, oh, I respect how you're feeling. That's okay, good. I'm glad you told me. And I don't feel guilty going off without you. I can enjoy myself. You can enjoy your alone time, and we can still communicate. And that's a beautiful thing. And, Molly, you just reminded me of something that was so important when you said it's easy to be confident when you're being yourself. It's easy. So after Ray had, passed away, and, time went on, and then I was exploring the online dating. So what I found, what was happening to me, I would meet these people and I was so looking to be what they wanted,
Ooh,
that I was losing myself. And so I'd meet someone, they wouldn't call me back. They didn't call me back. And it was more, I was taking everything personally. And then as I would look back, I would say, thank God they didn't call me back. This would not have been the right person for me. This would not have worked, because I'm not who they are. I'm not who they would want to be with. So why am I trying to be a square peg in a round hole? And it took a long time to recognize that. And it was such a stressful time of, going through all these different things. And then once the light bulb goes off, it's like, oh, you know what? I don't have to be with anybody. I could just be with people that I like. I could just be with people who accept me, where I don't have to defend anything or explain anything. I had one guy show up at a diner and he printed out my entire profile, and he was asking me questions about everything I said. Yeah, it was like an interview. Like, okay, learning something. So we can learn about ourselves through every experience we go through. And the most challenging experiences, if we can look at them and say, well, why was I resisting that? Or why was that so unnerving? Or why was it so distasteful? And then take a step back, go, you know what? There was nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't me. It's not where I am right now. And then look to the people that you enjoy spending time with. You have those friends that they're just like relief friends. It's like, oh, I could show up rolling out of bed. I could show up all dressed up. I could show up any old way. And I just can be myself. I don't have to filter anything. I can, as long as I'm kind and as long as I am clear, I don't have to be walking on eggshells. If I say, oh, I'd rather not eat sushi tonight. It's so important to be free to be yourself and learn to be kind and compassionate when others are struggling.
Yeah. Ooh, you said a lot of beautiful things in there. I want to reemphasize everything we're saying is we're really not meant to go at life alone. Friendships, partners, people, colleagues that you work with, dates, all of it. It's a learning opportunity, but it's also, it's love. And that's just That's a big element of life. I wanted to say something interesting that I'm hearing from a lot of your stories, going back to how you were talking about work and working in fashion and sweaters and flying off to Asia and then just magically finding feng shui and just consuming and trailblazing. And from what I gather, it feels like career is a really easy place for you to be confident. And for me, I have felt that in relationships. And I've struggled a lot in career, and that really challenged my self confidence. And from that story with you're going on online dating and you're meeting someone that prints out your profile, it's like the challenge to accept yourself in that. And it's working through that. And it's another lesson, another journey of who am I? Who am I right now? Who am I with all my past experiences? Who am I in this space, in this moment? And how do I cultivate that confidence? Who are the friends I call up and lean on? What does my space look like when I get up in the morning? How do I feel the most at ease and that life is just good? And what's funny about being human is our day starts over. Every 24 hours, we start over. So going back to the principles of feng shui, what I'm gathering is so important if we're constantly retraining our subconscious to feel safe, confident, in a place of power. And we just start over every single day in every avenue.
Yes. And you said something really important about confidence. So I found when I was immersed in what I loved, I was naturally confident because I wasn't looking on the outside, judging myself that I wasn't good enough. So the bedroom set story, there was a part of me that I didn't feel like I was good enough because I didn't have a bedroom set. There were parts throughout my lifetime where I would judge myself because I would look at others or see other things and feel like, do I know enough? Am I good enough? But I would realize if I would just be immersed in what I love to do, then I wasn't distracted by looking at other people and comparing myself. So comparing ourselves to others can really be a downer. It can really, take all the wind out of our sails. It take our fire. It could snuff it out because we are now comparing and saying, oh, well, maybe do I know enough? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? And we're human. So there'll always be that, but learning to fill yourself up with being comfortable in your own skin so that the 80% of the time that you are managing, that you're being who you are, that when the 20% comes in, you don't get lost in it for days. You don't get lost in that comparison. You don't get lost in judgment. It doesn't tear you down so quickly because we're going to go up and down. We're not meant to just be, We're meant to be, to feel it all. This feels good. Okay, I'm going to adjust this. This was challenging. This was easy. What do I know? What do I feel? Some days we're just tired. Some days we're just, like you said, do we ever give ourselves permission to say, I'm depleted? I just need to chill out without feeling guilty that we're chilling out. I look back to how many how many sick days I would take from work and feel guilty that I was homesick, that I couldn't recover because I had all these nuts in my stomach.
Wow.
I couldn't rest because I was like, am I really sick? Should I suck it up and just go to work? I'm so grateful that we're living in times where people don't have to, pretend that they're healthy. We'd rather say, look, you don't feel good, stay home. It's okay. We're not going to think you're weak. Just take care of yourself. Self-care is so important. So understanding the things I went through, I wasn't always confident. I'm not always confident. But when I can be just being me and just trust, whatever I am right now is all I need. I know whatever I need. I trust that I'm doing the best I can. Then things work out. When I start getting in my head and I start picking myself apart, of course, it's going to be a big distraction. And then I go back to my friend. I call him my dear friend, Don Miguel Ruiz. I've never met him, but I love him dearly. He's been with me forever. And when we look at his fourth agreement, always do your best. And your best will be different every day, every situation. Just do the best that you can with what you have. Don't judge it. Just do your best. And his agreements are all about communicating, asking questions, being honest, be honest with yourself, do your best, and ask questions. Don't take things for, don't assume anything. And those four simple things, like, you know what? Yeah, they're simple, but they can be complicated. But what if we cull it down and just do things simple? I'm doing the best I can right now. With what I have, I'm doing my best. And then just do the best and move on.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to chime in here to wrap up this first conversation that I had with Lois. This recording was pretty long, and Lois is packed with knowledge and wisdom all around Feng Shui and Chinese astrology. And so, this first episode, I wanted to just be about Feng Shui and the principles and kind of enough conversation for listeners to really sit with this information and see how it pertains to their living circumstance. You'll hear more from Lois soon in a Chinese astrology conversation. That's kind of part 2 of my interview with her. And separate enough, as there's so many elements and so many themes going on in both of these practices, that it's a whole other conversation. And while I don't usually do outros, I'll take this opportunity to thank you for listening to this podcast. I'm glad you're here. Is my mission to really share tools and understanding and ways to really come back to ourselves, embody this wisdom that's been passed down from generations and generations and multiple cultures. So thank you. And if you have a moment to share this podcast with friends or family, rate and review it on Spotify and Apple, that would mean the world to me. I also have an Instagram handle for the podcast. It's called I'm Glad You're Here Pod. I always link that in the show notes and look forward to connecting. So goodbye for now.